My father gave our family business to my sister's husband. Because he was more able, a year later, he was arrested for fraud. I-32M grew up in a family where our business was everything. My father, 65M, started a small manufacturing company in our garage and slowly built it into a successful local business. From a young age, I was told that one day I'd take over. I studied business in college, worked part-time at the company during school, and joined full-time right after graduation. For the past 10 years, I've been working long hours, trying to prove myself, but no matter what I do, it's never enough for my father. He's always criticizing my decisions and questioning my judgment. Things got worse when my sister 34, F, married Jake 35, M, 5 years ago. Jake has an MBA and worked for a mid-sized accounting firm from day one. My father was impressed by him. He'd constantly praised Jake's ideas, even on topics Jake knew little about. Jake started hanging around the shop, more sitting in on meeting and offering his opinions. My father often implemented Jake's suggestions over mine. It didn't matter that I had years of hands-on experience, while Jake was just speculating. Based on general business theories 3 years ago, we were deciding whether to expand our product line. I spent weeks researching and put together a proposal showing it was too risky. Jake looked at it for an hour and said we should go for it. My father overruled me and followed Jake's advice. We ended up wasting money on inventory that didn't sell last year. I negotiated a deal with a plier that would have saved us 10% on costs. Jake said he thought he could do better. My father let him take over the negotiations. In the end, Jake only got a 7% reduction, but my father praised him for his superior negotiating skills. 6 months ago, we launched a new product. I led the team that developed it at the launch event. My father barely acknowledged my role, and instead had Jake give a speech about the visionary leadership that made it possible. Throughout all this, my sister has always taken Jake's side, even when it's clear he's wrong. She defends him and tells me I'm just jealous. She seems to have forgotten all the times I stood up for her when we were kids. Despite all this, I kept working hard and hoping my father would eventually recognize my contributions. I thought surely, when it came time to hand over the reins, he'd see that I was the right choice. Last week, my father called a family meeting. He announced that he's ready to step back from day-to-day operations. I held my breath, expecting him to finally acknowledge my hard work and name me as his successor. Instead, he said he's appointing Jake as the new manager. He praised Jake's fresh perspective and innovative thinking. He said the company needs new ideas to grow. I was stunned. I asked about my role. Going forward, my father said I could continue in my current position, reporting to Jake. He acted like this was a completely normal and reasonable decision. I lost it. I told him he was making a huge mistake. I pointed out all the times Jake's ideas had backfired. I reminded him of my years of dedication and hard work. I said he was betraying me and the promise he'd made about me. Taking over someday, my father got angry. He said I was proving his point about being too emotional and not having the right temper to lead. He said Jake was clearly the better choice because he stays calm and professional. My sister jumped in, telling me I was being selfish and should be happy for Jake. She said I should trust our father's judgment. Jake just sat there looking arrogant. I stormed out. Since then, I've been ignoring calls and texts from my family. I'm seriously considering quitting and starting my own competing business just to prove them wrong. But part of me wonders if I overreacted. Maybe I am too emotional. Maybe Jake really is more qualified, and I'm blinded by jealousy. Our company makes specialized parts for local industries. I have a technical background in addition to my business degree, so I understand our products and processes in depth. Jake has no technical background. I've consistently improved our operations over the years. Our efficiency has increased by 30%. Under my leadership, Jake has never actually run a business or even a large department. His accounting work was mainly auditing and financial reporting. There have been rumors that Jake is looking to outsource some of our production to cut costs. This goes against my father's commitment to keeping jobs in our community. But he doesn't seem to believe me when I tell him my father has a history of being impressed by outsiders. He's always been swayed by fancy degrees and big company names growing up. He was often disappointed that I wasn't top of my class or captain of a sports team. My mother passed away when I was in college. Since then, my father has become even more critical and emotionally distant. I'm not married and don't have kids. My father has made comments about how Jake and my sister starting a family. About a month ago, I got a call from an old colleague still working at my father's company. He told me there were rumors of financial irregularities the police were investigating, and Jake's name was at the center of it all. I was shocked, despite our difference. I never thought Jake would do anything illegal. My first thought was of my father. If Jake was involved in fraud, there was a good chance my father could be implicated too. Even if he was innocent, I knew I had to do something and watch my father potentially go down for something he might not have done. I decided to hire a private investigator to look into the situation. The Paye worked quickly and discreetly. Within a week, he came back with some startling information. Jay had indeed been cooking the books. He had been inflating, profits hiding losses, and even embezzling money from the company. The fraud had been going on for the last year. However, the most important piece of information was that my father appeared to be completely unaware of the fraud. The Paye found no evidence that my father was involved or had any knowledge of Jake's actions. It seemed Jake had taken advantage of my father's trust and manipulated financial reports to keep him in the dark with this information in hand. I knew I had to act fast and arranged a meeting with my father. When I walked into his office, I could see the toll the situation had taken on him. He looked older, more worn for a moment. All the old resentments faded away, and I just saw my dad looking lost and afraid. I explained what I had discovered and introduced him to the lawyer. At first, he was defensive, insisting that Jake would never do such a thing. But as we laid out the evidence, with the help of the lawyer my father cooperated fully with the investigation, he provided all the necessary documents and testified about his lack of involvement in the fraud. Jake was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. My sister was devastated. She alternated between defending Jake and lashing out at everyone else. I tried to be there for her, but it was difficult given our strained relationship. Throughout this ordeal, I worked closely with my father to understand the extent of the damage to the company. It was worse than we initially thought. Jake's actions had left the business in a precarious financial position. As we worked together to sort through the mess, my father and I began to rebuild our relationship. For the first time in years, he listened to my ideas without dismissing them. He even admitted that he had been wrong about Jake and about me one evening. As we were going through some old files, my father turned to me with tears in his eyes. He apologized for not seeing my true value, for always pushing me aside in favor of outsiders. He said he had always been afraid of showing favoritism, of being accused of nepotism, and in doing so, he had hurt the one person who truly cared about the company as much as he did. It was a breakthrough moment for us. We talked for hours, really. Talked in a way we hadn't since I was a kid. He shared his fears and insecurities about running the business, and I opened up about how his constant criticism had affected me. As the legal proceedings against Jake continued, my father asked me to come back to the company. At first I was hesitant. I had found a measure of peace in my new job away from the family drama. But as we discussed it, I realized this was an opportunity to rebuild, not just the business, but our relationship as well. I agreed to return, but on the condition that we would be equal partners. No more top-down management, no more dismissing each other's ideas. We would make decisions together, combining his experience with my fresh perspective. It's been a month since I returned to the family business. It hasn't been easy. The company's reputation took a hit from the scandal, and we've had to work hard to regain the trust of our clients and employees. There have been late nights and heated discussions as we figure out how to move forward, but for the first time, I feel like my father and I are truly working together. He values my input and often defers to my judgment on technical matters. In turn, I've gained a new appreciation for his years of experience and business acumen. My sister is still struggling to come to terms with Jake's actions. She's filed for divorce and is in therapy. Our relationship is slowly improving as she begins to see how Jake had manipulated not just the business, but our family dynamics as well. Looking back on the past year, I'm amazed at how much has changed. I went from feeling betrayed and undervalued to playing a crucial role in saving the family business and repairing my relationship with my father. I've learned a lot about forgiveness, both giving and receiving it. I've also learned that sometimes Stepping away from a situation can give you the perspective needed to address it. Effectively, the road ahead won't be easy. We still have a lot of work to do to get the company back on solid footing. My father and I are still learning how to communicate and work together effectively. But for the first time in years, I'm excited about the future of our family business. To those who might be facing similar family business conflicts, I would say this: don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, but also be open to reconciliation. Sometimes it takes a crisis to bring people together and reveal the truth. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice on my original post. Your support gave me the courage to make tough decisions and ultimately to be there for my family when they needed me most. So, Reddit, what do you think? Did I handle the situation? Well, any advice for navigating the challenges ahead as we rebuild our business and our family relationship? The moral of this story is that sometimes difficult situations and conflicts within families and businesses can lead to unexpected outcomes. It teaches us the importance of standing up for ourselves, seeking the truth, and being open to forgiveness and reconciliation. It also highlights the value of perseverance, self-reflection, and the power of working together to overcome challenges and rebuild relationships. Thank you for following along with this story. I hope it has offered you some insight or entertainment. If you enjoyed this tale, stay tuned for more stories and adventures to come. Remember, life is full of twists and turns, so always be ready for the unexpected. Until next time, take care and keep exploring the wonders of the world around you. Goodbye for now.